Erica from AccuQuilt, and I'm here today to show you how to hand piece English paper piecing pieces. Now we're using our Qube English Paper Piecing 1-inch finished sides, and traditionally these pieces are going to be hand basted or glue basted around a paper template. Well, if you're not somebody who likes doing that, but you do like doing hand sewing, I've got another technique for you. So we're going to go ahead and hand sew these together and miss that whole basting step. So for that, we're going to need needle and thread. We're going to need our pieces, of course, but we're only going to need the fabric pieces because we're not going to need those paper templates this time. We're also going to need our scissors, of course. We're going to need a marker. So we're going to need something to mark on the back side of your fabric. So this is a water-soluble marker. Whatever you normally use to mark on the back side of your fabric is great. I like to use something with a fine tip for this. And then, of course, a ruler so you know where you're going. And a little bag to keep it all together. This is a really cute one that's got some English paper piecing on it. Keep that handy so you can take your pieces with you on the go. So let's get started. Now, the first thing we're going to have to do is mark our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, if you're sewing and piecing a traditional quilt, you're going to have a 1/4 inch foot on your sewing machine. You're going to know exactly where that 1/4 inch seam allowance is. Well, when you sit down with a needle and thread, you don't have any kind of a guide. So you're going to want to draw that on. So I've drawn some on, and I just want to show you how I mark those on another one. It should show up well on this one. So I like to use a clear acrylic ruler so that I can see those marks. I'm going to line it up on that 1/4 inch mark. And then I'm going to take my little water-soluble marker and just draw a line. Now you want to see where you're going the whole way down, but the key is going to be seeing where those seams intersect also. We're going to be doing something today that makes a lot of quilters nervous. It's going to be sewing a Y seam, and I'm going to show you it's not that scary. So let's keep turning our fabric so we can keep marking our piece here. And I've got most of these pieces marked for us. Again, just keep going around. You want something that's going to show up for you, but you'll be able to get it out later on in case it bleeds through. So don't go in with a permanent marker here. Okay, here's our last side. Again, make sure you're getting that intersection. Okay. Now, just like when we do our traditional, we're going to start in the center of our shape. We're going to move out. So I'm going to grab a couple of our pieces here and line them up. Now, you want to make sure with your needle and thread, you're starting right at the point on both sides where those 1/4 inch marks are going to intersect. So we're going to get that through. I've knotted my thread, but I'm going to do just a little bit of a back stitch to get me started. Again, if you were sewing on your sewing machine, you'd make a back stitch to get started. We're going to do the same thing here. Now you can just go ahead and do a little running stitch. Take 3 or 4 little stitches here. I like to use a longer flexible needle. Just makes it a little easier to do this. I'm going to take those little stitches, and every few stitches, I'll show you when I get this pulled through, I'm going to go ahead and do a little back stitch. I just like to make sure that everything is safe and secure. You're really putting a lot of love into this little project, and you want to be sure it's going to hold up and last for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little back stitch, and I'm right here at the end where those lines intersected. And get that last stitch in. Okay, so now we open it up. And we'll see we've got those first 2 shapes. Next, we're going to add that green hexagon in. So I'm going to line this up. Well, I think I'll line it up on this end. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go in, and actually You can either knot this, or you can go ahead and move, just keep going. If you want to knot it, it's going to take you so that you're working from the outside in. And a lot of times I really like to do that. I'm going to take a little stitch here. Again, just that little back stitch. And we're going to go ahead, do our running stitch out. Now notice that we're stopping at that intersection where that 1/4 inch seam allowance intersects. That's because we're doing that Y seam thing, remember? And we're going to not want to sew all the way out to the edge. So I did my little midpoint back stitch. I'm going to get up here to the end, right where I intersect. It's my last one. I'm going to do a little back stitch here. A little bit of a knot, and clip my thread. So let's take a look. Okay, I'm part way there. Now I've got to sew. Now with the tricky part, I'm going to sew from here down to here. So I better get another knot going. There we go. All right, so we're going to put these two together, and I want to sew from the outside in. So I want to line those pieces up. Now, you want to take this little piece and pull it out of the way. We don't want it to get sewn into the seam, and we don't want the seam allowance sewn in there either. And if it makes you more comfortable, go ahead and grab a pin or a clip to hold that for you. And you just put that across the bottom just to kind of help you hold it in position. Now I'm going to flip this over. I want to sew from this point, the intersection point, into the center now. I'm going to start the same way I did before with a little back stitch. It's going to make sure it's really secure. We'll do our little running stitches here to the midpoint. Do another little back stitch. Sew us back in to that center point. And we want to stop right there at that intersection point, and it's better to stop a thread short than a thread over, and you'll see what I mean. And we're right there at that intersection point. I'm going to go ahead again. I did my little back stitch. I'm going to do a little knot and snip us off. Get this out of my way and open it up. There we go. See how perfectly those have lined up there? Now let me show you what it looks like on the back. Here we go on the back. Now if you take, this is a great tip, and actually it comes from our English Paper Piecing Made Easy book by Katja Merrick. She's got great directions in there, but what Katja does is go ahead and you see these seams, she's going to rotate them all to one side in a counterclockwise direction. And when you do that, that center seam point is going to open up and give you like a little miniature tumbling block, and it's going to lay perfectly flat. I'm going to take it over and press it just a little bit so you can really see it well. Can you see how perfectly flat that is? It's just the best. So now we've got that center, we've got those 3 hexagons put together. Now we're working towards this. We're going to go ahead and sew in one of these diamonds. And again, we've got another one of these Y seams in. Not a problem for us. We're going to go ahead, start from the outside and work in just like we did before. Now here's a great thing about our shapes. We have clipped the ends of those diamonds. So it's going to line up perfectly flush with the edge of your hexagon and be ready for you to go. So I got a knot up here again. Perfect. Okay. Now we're sewing. We're going to line up our pieces. we've been starting at the intersection point. This is actually the outside of my hexagon. So I'm going to go ahead and start all the way out to the edge now. This is going to be my exception to the rule. I'm still going to do my back stitch, but I am going to start on the outside edge and sew in so that it is secure all the way to the edge. And we're going to do a couple running stitches. Again, when we get to the center point, I'm going to do a little back stitch for security measures. And as I'm coming in now, I need to kind of move my seam allowance off to the side. And again, I'm going to follow my line that I drew, my 1/4 inch seam line, and I'm going to come right up at that intersection point. And again, remember, better a thread short than a thread over, trust me. I'm going to take a little knot here with a back stitch. And I am going to go ahead and clip this because I really do like to work from the outside in. But if you're okay with it, do it the other way. So we've got the one side. Now I'm going to flip it over. Line these two up. Now again, like we did with our first piece, we need to pull this out of the way so that it's not getting into our seam. Want to make sure we're perfectly lined up. And again, if you want to, go ahead, grab a pin, pin that together. Pam teases me about being a pinner, but I found that people who started sewing with garment sewing are more likely to pin. That's me, so. Let me get a knot. And see, this is going to be our second Y seam. Everybody's okay. It's not scary at all. You guys can do this. Perfect. So we're going to take some running stitches. Get us to the middle for a little back stitch. On up to the end. Finish it off and we'll see how this one lies. We're basically going to keep doing the same thing. And the same basic technique, no matter which design or which shapes you're working with, is going to work for you. Just like before, when we went all the same direction, we're going to go the same direction with our seams again, kind of finger press that out. And again, we've created that great little tumbling block so we know we've done it right. And our seam is going to lay flat. Let's give it a little press for you. Right there. There you go. So I hope you will try this hand sewing technique and see what you think. It's a great way to still take your sewing with you without using a sewing machine and take it on the go, but you're going to skip that whole basting step. So for more information on English paper piecing, be sure to refer to our other videos, the little pattern booklet that comes inside your cube, or English Paper Piecing Made Easy by Qube. Great resources for you. So with the Qube English Paper Piecing 1-inch finished sides, remember, AccuQuilt is here to help you cut time so you can quilt more.